What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader, and as promised in a previous loose graded market update, Jeff Jacobs, who is a pretty well-known collector, if you are on Facebook, he's got probably the largest collection of Star Wars action figures for vintage in the world. It's a pretty incredible collection. And he also sells on eBay, and he had an epic, absolutely epic lot of AFA and CAS graded, loose graded figures. There were some Kenner, there were some cut cards, there were a lot of beautiful Lili Ledys, including one that I actually won in this auction lot. So we're going to go through all the details here, but man, you want to talk about some incredible items that all sold the same night. It was really hard to narrow down what I wanted to bid on. I won two, one of them loose graded, one of them mint on card. I'm sure I'll cover them in an unboxing video in more detail, but we're going to cover the loose graded stuff that he had for sale, and I don't know when I'm going to film the mint on card stuff that he had. I'll probably include that as part of a larger video, but man, you want to talk about some awesome items. And this whole video is only Jeff Jacobs auctions that were on eBay that closed last night as of the making of this video. The first one is a Collector Archive Services 80 grade Luke Skywalker with brown hair. This is the Hong Kong variant, and one I still want to pick up. I still don't have this one in high grade, but nice looking example. Again, I'm not a big fan of the saber in the hand when CAS does it this way. I'd much prefer to have the saber kind of encased next to it the way UKG and AFA does it. And CAS will do it sometimes, as I talked about in past videos, but this one sold for $345. That's kind of right in line with what they sell for. There was a UKG example that sold, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago. That was around the same price point. So I think that was a very fair price. $345 plus $15 shipping. All of these were $15 shipping, so hopefully I'll remember to not say that anymore. Next up was a Taiwan lettered saber hilt Darth Vader. Here are the details on this one. Now, BOE, Blacked Out Ewoks, who's on YouTube and a good buddy of mine, he appeared in my 5K live stream. He did mention that there are some Taiwan 12 backs for Darth Vader. So likely that's the case with this figure because it had a lettered saber hilt, which were usually on the early card backs, to my knowledge. Again, you're talking to somebody that thinks he knows what he's talking about. Half the time, I don't. But this one was graded 80 by CAS with BP on the sabered hilt, on the lettered saber hilt. And you could have single letters, you could have double letters. In this case, it was BP on the saber hilt. This one sold for $159.50 plus $15 shipping. I already broke my promise, but I think that was a pretty good value there. Again, I'm not a big fan of how this one is encased. It looks like he's being scrunched up, like, oh, let me out of these shackles. It doesn't look that great to me. I prefer to have either the J hooks going over the top or the dowels, the circular dowels, but obviously there's issues with those as well because the capes can fall off. So you can't make me happy is what it boils down to. But anyway, that Taiwan lettered saber hilt Darth Vader sold for $159.50. Next up, we just had a standard CAS 85 Hong Kong Darth Vader, so a very standard common figure. That one sold for $162.50, so slightly higher. Again, this one closed almost the same price as the 85, even though this one was an 80, because this one had the lettered saber hilt and it was the harder to find Taiwan, in my opinion. So pretty close price point, though, on that one. Next up was a CAS 85 Yoda Brown Snake Hong Kong COO. So you can see that one there. 85 grade, nice looking case style on that one. $177.50. I think that's a great buy. Great buy. AFA 85s will set you back, you know, I've seen as high as $250, maybe even $300 for sometimes. Depends on the COO, obviously. But for a brown snake Yoda graded CAS 85, I think that's a great buy there. Next up was Lando No Teeth. This is the Hong Kong variant, and this one was AFA graded. So he had both CAS as well as AFA graded examples. This one was an AFA 80 plus Hong Kong No Teeth. This is the more common of the two Hong Kong variants for Lando. The ones with the painted teeth tend to be a little bit harder to find, has been my experience. That one sold for $89, so great buy on that one. Next up was an AFA 80 plus Cloud Car Pilot loose graded with the new case style. $103. $103. That was a steal of a deal in my mind if you can live with the 80 plus grade. Last year, there was an AFA 85 plus that sold for $800 to $900 by CIB on eBay. So that price to me was crazy. Obviously, that was a different market environment, right? Prices for common stuff, even AFA 85s, have come down quite a bit. And this is an example of that. $103 for that. That's a great buy. I probably should have bid on it, but I didn't. Next up was a CAS 90 plus grade Taiwan Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight. I do love how CAS encases these. I've talked to some of you, like Justin, he doesn't like these. He prefers the AFA cases. Me personally, I prefer having everything splayed out. Although the negative is that they take up a lot of space on your shelves. And I've got like 7 of these, all different COOs that are graded by CAS, and they do take up a lot of space. That's the one big negative. For every one of these, you can fit 2 AFA graded examples. So that one sold for $255. I thought that was a great buy for a 90 plus. I mean, whether it's AFA, CAS, or UKG, to get a 90 plus grade anything, I don't care who's grading it, that's very tough to do. You're basically talking card fresh, straight off a card back. And $255 for that, I mean, that's a really good buy in my mind. Next up was a CAS 90 Taiwan. So this one was just a half a point lower. This one was a CAS 90 versus the other one that was a 90 plus. That one sold for $255. This one sold for $255. So the market basically said, we're not going to give you any extra points for getting a 90 plus versus a 90 when they're CAS graded for whatever that's worth. The other negative is it looks like the saber's kind of moving around a little bit inside that case. Maybe it's just an optical illusion, but it doesn't look like the saber's kind of properly wedged in that case there, though. So that can be a negative, too, and probably why it was held down a little bit in price. Next up was a CAS 85 Luke Skywalker. This one, again, was the Taiwan. So you had an 85, a 90, and a 90 plus. And the price ranges were $227.50 for the 85 to around $255 for the 90 and 90 plus. So 3 different data points there for a CAS high-grade Luke Jedi. Now we're going to dig into the Lili Ledys. Wow, you want to talk about some incredible Lili Ledys, and for the most part, I think they all really sold for what I would consider below market value. Most of these sold for at or below what they can go for ungraded in some of the Lili Ledy groups on Facebook. And this is a very tough variant to find. The Lili Ledy T-bow with the brown eyes, it is extremely tough to find, and this price, I guess, did not reflect, or at least the bidders at the time did not reflect how tough it is to find this variant. It was only graded AFA 80 only, but the brown eyes variant specifically for T-bow, Lili Ledy, made in Mexico, very, very tough to find this one, and they usually do sell for quite a bit more ungraded. So that was a good buy there on that one. Next up was an 80 plus Lili Ledy AT-ST driver. In my last market update, we just documented one that was an AFA 80 that I believe sold for around $255. This one sold for $155.50, which is a great buy considering it was a slight grade higher. Again, it was AFA graded, but man, that was a good buy as well. And again, the strategy that I beat into your heads ad nauseum is that when there are very rare stuff that are all ending at the same time, a lot of the more common stuff can often kind of fall under the radar, and the prices will be well below what market values are. In this case, this one sold for about what a loose ungraded AT-ST driver in high grade will sell for. So $155.50, that's a bargain price. Next up was the Lili Ledy Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, this is an example of one that I thought went a little higher than I expected. I was expecting about $400 for this one. We documented, I believe it was a UKG 80% Lili Ledy Obi-Wan that sold 2 or 3 weeks ago for less than this. But again, this is AFA graded, so you are going to pay a slight premium most of the time for AFA graded examples. But $483.99, again, this is one that went a little bit higher than I expected. But that was the exception to the rule for this batch of items. In general, most of them came in at or below market value. Next up was an AFA 85 plus Lili Ledy Chief Chirpa. This is a fairly common one to find. I believe this one was available on the U.S. Made in Mexico cardbacks. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that Chief Chirpa was one of the figures that was produced for the U.S. market on Lili Ledy Made in Mexico cardbacks. And it was an 85 plus, very high grade, $195.50. That's probably about what I paid for my AFA 85 example several years ago. So this one was an 85 plus, and it went for about the same price. So that's a good buy there. Next up, there were 2 different Lili Ledy prune faces that sold. And again, these ungraded, you're not going to get one for $86, which is what the sales price is for this one. You're just not. I mean, in general, loose, ungraded, complete prune faces that are Lili Ledy, It's 150, 120, 125 to 150 easily for ungraded. And to get a 75 plus for $86, that's a good buy. He also had an AFA 80 example for 137.50. Again, that was a great price. And, I bought one ungraded for more than that price. So Lili Ledy's, as I talked about in my last market update for loose graded figures, Lili Ledy's are just being ignored by collectors right now. And I can't tell you why, because it's a great subset. It's a nice little side focus if you're into loose graded figures. They're foreign variants, made in Mexico. They've got a rich history. Oftentimes they come with different accessories like the ATST driver. But this is a nice example. AFA 80 for 137.50. Great buy. And talking about alternate accessories, we've got the Hoth Rebel Commander. He comes with the bowcaster instead of the blaster rifle. And this one was an AFA 85. That one sold for $169.50. Again, I'm not an expert by any means on Lili Ledy's, but to me, that's a great price for a very, very high grade AFA example. And, it's just an example of a figure that was just ignored by bidders that night. But he had two of these. One of them sold for $169.50. The other one sold for $182.50. So that's a nice tight price range for the Hoth Rebel Commander made by Lili Ledy. Next up was an AFA 85 Lili Ledy Chewbacca. This one had an older case style. This one sold for $465. That one to me seems a little high. The Chewbacca is usually pretty easy to find in general. I think for mine ungraded, I paid about $180 for it, and it came back with a CAS 85. So $465. Again, to each their own. To me, the Kenobi and the Chewbacca, because they're first 12 figures, maybe that attracted some bidding action. For people, obviously, AFA is not loose grading, so maybe you're going to spend a little bit more on the more popular characters, but $465 was probably a little bit high. This one came in well below estimates, and this is one I did bid on, but I lost. I expected this one to go for around $900, and that's the Lili Ledy Leia Bespin. Ungraded, they can go for $700 to $900 pretty easily. They're very, very rare, very tough to find. They were not produced in big numbers, or there's not a big population of them available. And it mainly comes down to the cape and the weapon. It's really tough to find her complete. You can find near mint figures with the cape and just the figure, but the blaster pistol is really tough to find. And again, $600 to $900 I've seen even higher than that. There is the blonde-haired version. This is not the blonde-haired Lili Ledy Leia Bespin, but there is kind of a lighter brown hair that collectors call the blonde-haired version. That one can go for a lot more money. But this one sold for $583.99. I think I finished second or third in bidding on this one. It was a little bit more than I was willing to go, but I think for an AFA 80 plus Lili Ledy Leia Bespin, that's a good buy. It does have the China COO, which some of the Lili Ledy's do have the China COO on them. Lando Calrissian in his Bespin outfit, that's another one that has the China COO. So very tough to find that one, and I think $584 was a great buy on that one as well. But there were just a ton of items that were for sale, and here's the one that I ended up winning, and it's a tough one to find, and that's the Returno variant for Luke Skywalker Bespin. And the more common one is the brown-haired version that comes with the Bespin blaster pistol. That one is the Regresso version. That's, I think, again, don't quote me on any of this stuff, but that one with the brown hair and that came with the Bespin pistol, that's pretty plentiful. You can find that one pretty easily. But this one is not easy to find. And ungraded, usually in high grade, they can go for $600. I've seen them for sale for about that price in some of the Lili Ledy focus groups. Now, the difference is this one is blonde hair, and this one also comes with the DL44 blaster that's made in Mexico. So very tough to find this one. Is this one overgraded a little bit? I would argue yes. It was an AFA 80, but the big thing on this one is that the utility belt had some obvious paint wear to it. I probably personally would have given this a 75 or 75 plus, but that's probably what kept the price down to where I could afford it. Because I had just bought a mint on card the same evening, and I had to put that on PayPal credit, and then I put this one on PayPal credit. So I did pay $457 for it plus shipping, but I think in general it's tough to find them AFA graded, the Returno variant especially. So I said, well, if I'm ever going to get it, now's probably a good time to get it. I had a perfect spot on my shelf, on my Luke Bespin shelf, where I had one spot remaining. So All of those factors, for whatever reason, made me go ahead and bid on this, and I did win it for $457. So I'm happy to get it. I think it's a little overgraded personally, but I'm okay with it, especially at that price point. So nice example, and I'm sure I'll show it in more detail in a future unboxing video. But just remember that if it's advertised as the Lili Ledy Luke Bespin, and he's got blonde hair, and it has the Lili Ledy specific made DL44 blaster, that's the earlier version. That's the early Lili Ledy Luke Bespin. Again, the more common one comes with the Bespin Lili Ledy wide-handled blaster, and he has the brown hair. So anyway, very excited about that one. I'm sure, again, I'll show it off later. Now we're going to dig into some cut cards that Jeff had for sale. This one was a CAS 85 Plus prune face, very common item. That one sold for $88. Probably lost some money on that one because I think to grade cut cards, CAS charges $60 or $70 if memory serves, because they've got to customize the cases. Every one of them is very specific to the size of the card and the blister that's remaining. So they're not easy to grade. They take a long time to grade, and the turnaround times are longer. But that was graded CAS 85 Plus preserved grading. And again, that one sold for $88. Next up was a CAS 85 Plus A-Wing pilot on the Power of the Force card, and that one included the coin. That one sold for $375. Again, I'm not into cut cards. That's not really my thing. To me, I'd rather have either loose graded or a true mint on card. But it's a nice budget-friendly option for those that want to kind of collect something different. There are collectors that like to collect these, either graded by UKG or CAS. AFA does not grade cut cards, but they're kind of a cool side focus. It's just not for me. Next up was a CAS 90 Plus preserved cut card Princess Leia in her indoor combat poncho. 90 Plus, very high grade. That one sold for $127.50. And then there was also a CAS 85 Klaatu. That one sold for $63. He definitely lost money on that one. Again, that's probably about what the grading cost is for that one. Next up was a CAS 85 AT-ST driver. This is not the Lili Ledy, obviously. This is just a standard U.S. Return of the Jedi card back. And again, it was graded 85 preserved grade. That's what basically all they're looking at is the front of the figure and the sides of the figure. They can't see the back of the figure because it's still inside a blister. So it's a preserved grade. It's kind of a different segment. It's kind of like the signature series for autographed items. So you got loose, you've got qualified, you've got, mint on card, and then you've got preserved grading. There's all kinds of different kind of segments that CAS offers, and that one sold for $70. Next up was a preserved CAS 85 Plus Yoda, and that one sold for $178.25, another good value there. And then finally was a Luke Farm Boy on a cut card. These usually do go for quite a bit of money because it's hard to find them. Still mint on card, true mint on card Luke Farm Boys. You're going to be paying big boy money, right? So this is a nice kind of more budget-friendly option to collect a unused, untouched, uncirculated, if you will, Luke Farm Boy, and that one sold for $330. So just an incredible batch of loose graded and cut cards that Jeff Jacobs had. You can follow him on eBay at Jeff's Collectible Empire. I am not a paid spokesman or sponsor. I'm just a happy customer. I bought maybe a half dozen items from him over the years, if not more, and I've always been very, very happy with how he ships. He packs very well, always a stand-up guy, and I bought from him both on eBay as well as on Facebook. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.